"You are not what we are looking for." The words landed less than 6 minutes after Marcus Reed had taken his seat inside the glass-walled interview room on the 32nd floor of a downtown Chicago office tower. Across from him, Human Resources Director Jennifer Adams closed her notebook with the calm efficiency of someone finishing a routine task. Marcus looked at the leather portfolio lying between them. His resume was still inside it, unopened. He had not been asked about the compliance teams he had led, the corporate investigations he had managed, or the multi-million-dollar negotiations listed on the first page. Yet Jennifer was already ending the interview, and Marcus understood the immediate risk. Months of preparation and a major career opportunity were disappearing before his qualifications had even entered the conversation. He kept his hands still on the edge of the table. "May I ask what is missing?" Jennifer offered the polished expression she had probably used with hundreds of applicants. "This position requires a very specific kind of executive presence. Based on our conversation, I do not believe the fit is there." Marcus held her gaze. He had heard every word she had asked since he entered. She had confirmed his name, asked whether parking had been difficult, mentioned that the company was moving quickly, and asked one broad question about why he wanted the position. That was almost the entire conversation. "Which part of my experience concerns you?" he asked. Jennifer glanced toward the portfolio but did not open it. "It is not necessarily about one item on a resume. At this level, leadership is something you can usually recognize pretty quickly." Marcus felt heat gather beneath his collar, but his voice remained even. For days of preparation sat inside that portfolio. 12 years of legal and compliance work sat inside it. So did the regulatory investigation he had helped resolve without layoffs, the cross-functional team he had led across 4 business units, and the major transaction that had required months of negotiation with executives who rarely agreed on anything. None of it had been discussed. Jennifer slid the portfolio several inches toward him. "I appreciate you coming in." Marcus looked at her hand, then at the closed portfolio. He did not pick it up. Beyond the glass wall, employees moved through the executive corridor carrying coffee and tablets, barely noticing the interview ending almost as soon as it had begun. In the conference room next door, a gray-haired man in a dark suit was reviewing documents on a tablet while waiting for a meeting. Jennifer could not see him from her chair. Marcus could only see part of his reflection in the glass. "I want to make sure I understand," Marcus said. Jennifer's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. "Understand what?" Marcus nodded toward the portfolio. "You said I do not have the executive presence for this position. That is my assessment. And you said my leadership experience is not necessarily the issue." "Correct." Marcus waited one beat. "Did you read my resume?" The room became strangely quiet. Jennifer's eyes dropped to the portfolio for less than a second. "It was enough. I reviewed the information provided through our recruiting process." Marcus did not move. "That was not my question." Jennifer leaned back slightly. The warmth disappeared from her professional smile. "Mr. Reed, I have been doing this for a long time. I know what this company needs." Marcus believed her. That was precisely what troubled him. He finally placed one hand on the portfolio, but instead of pulling it toward himself, he opened the cover and revealed the untouched resume beneath it. The first page faced Jennifer. "Then what exactly did you evaluate?" Jennifer stared at him. Behind the glass, the man in the adjoining conference room stopped scrolling. His eyes lifted from the tablet. Marcus did not notice. Jennifer did not notice. But the man had heard every word. Marcus let the silence sit between them for one more second before closing the portfolio. Jennifer did not answer his question directly. Instead, she stood and reached for the conference room door. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Reed. Recruiting will contact you if anything changes." The sentence sounded final. Marcus rose slowly, slipped the resume back into his leather portfolio, and followed her into the executive corridor. He checked the time on his watch as the door closed behind them. 6 minutes. He had spent longer choosing the tie he wore that morning. At reception, a young recruiting coordinator named Claire looked up from her monitor and immediately seemed confused to see him. "You are finished already?" she asked. Jennifer answered before Marcus could. "Yes. Please make sure his status is updated." Claire glanced at the clock in the corner of her screen. "Of course." Jennifer walked away toward the interview room without another word. Marcus placed his visitor badge on the reception counter. Claire reached for it, then hesitated. "I am sorry. I thought you were scheduled for 30 minutes. "So did I." Claire lowered her voice. I reviewed your application before sending it forward. Marcus looked at her. Then you read my resume. Her expression revealed that she understood the question beneath his words. Yes. All of it. Yes. Marcus gave a small nod. That was more acknowledgement than he had received inside the interview room. Claire opened a drawer and searched for a parking reimbursement form. While she worked, Marcus stood beside the reception area with his portfolio under one arm and tried to decide whether he was angry, embarrassed, or simply tired. He had prepared for this interview for 4 days, but the work behind those 4 days had taken 12 years. He had started in corporate compliance reviewing internal reports nobody else wanted to read. He had learned how to walk into rooms where senior executives disagreed and leave with decisions everyone could defend. He had led a team through a regulatory inquiry that threatened hundreds of jobs, and he had helped negotiate a corporate transaction worth more than $200 million. None of those accomplishments made him entitled to this position. Marcus knew that. Another candidate could be stronger. Another candidate could have experienced the company needed more. He could accept losing a fair competition. What stayed with him was the realization that no competition had taken place. Jennifer had looked at him, spoken with him for a few minutes, and decided that something called executive presence was missing before asking him to demonstrate any of it. His phone vibrated in his pocket. A message from his younger sister appeared asking how the interview had gone. Marcus stared at the screen, then locked it without answering. He did not yet know how to explain 6 minutes after weeks of telling his family that this opportunity might finally be the right one. Claire returned with the parking form. I just need your signature here. Marcus signed it. Thank you, Mr. Reed. He looked up. Claire seemed to choose her next words carefully. For what it is worth, your application had one of the strongest preliminary evaluations in the group I reviewed. Marcus felt something tighten behind his ribs. Did Jennifer know that? The score is in the recruiting system. That was not what I asked. Claire looked toward the interview room and lowered her voice again. She had access to it. Marcus understood why Claire was being careful. Jennifer was her director. The difference in authority was obvious even without an organizational chart. You do not need to put yourself in the middle of this, he said. Relief and discomfort crossed Claire's face at the same time. I just thought you should know. Marcus nodded. I appreciate that. He picked up his briefcase and turned toward the elevators. Before he reached them, the reception doors opened and another applicant approached the desk. He was a white man around Marcus's age wearing a dark blue suit and carrying a slim black folder. Daniel Harrison, he told Claire. 10:15 with Ms. Adams. Claire checked him in. Jennifer appeared almost immediately. Her expression had changed. The tightness Marcus had seen minutes earlier was gone, replaced by an easy professional warmth. Mr. Harrison, good morning. Come on in. Marcus pressed the elevator button. He had no reason to stay. The doors did not open immediately. Behind him, Jennifer and Harrison entered the same glass room Marcus had just left. Marcus could see them reflected in the polished wall beside the elevators. He tried not to watch. Then Jennifer sat down, accepted Harrison's folder, and opened it before he had even settled into his chair. She read the first page. Marcus turned fully toward the glass. Jennifer pointed to something on the resume and smiled. Harrison began answering. The elevator arrived with a soft chime, but Marcus did not step inside. From the conference room next door, the gray-haired man with the tablet was watching too. The elevator doors remained open for several seconds before closing again without Marcus. He barely noticed. Through the glass wall, Jennifer had Harrison's resume spread open on the table and was reading it line by line. I see you managed a regional team during the restructuring, she said. How many people reported to you? Harrison leaned forward. 23 directly and another 14 through 2 managers. Jennifer nodded and wrote something in her notebook. Tell me about the hardest decision you had to make with that team. Marcus stood nearly 30 feet away, yet the quiet executive floor carried their voices clearly enough through the partially open interview room door. His fingers tightened around the handle of his briefcase, then relaxed. That was the kind of question he had expected. He had prepared 3 examples because he knew leadership could not be demonstrated by a job title alone. Jennifer listened while Harrison explained a difficult reorganization. She asked what he would have done differently. She asked how he communicated the decision. She asked how his employees responded. Each question gave Harrison another opportunity to become more than whatever impression he had created when he entered the room. Marcus looked toward Claire. She had stopped pretending not to notice. Their eyes met briefly, and she looked down at her monitor. Marcus understood. She could see the difference too, but Jennifer signed her performance reviews and controlled decisions that could affect her career. Inside the conference room next door, the gray-haired man set his tablet on the table. His attention was no longer on the documents he had been reviewing. Jennifer turned another page. Your resume mentions client-facing responsibilities. What kinds of clients? Harrison answered. Jennifer followed with another question. Marcus felt the humiliation settled differently now. 6 minutes could have been explained away as scheduling pressure. A rushed morning. A bad interview. Perhaps even something Marcus himself had said without realizing how it sounded. But Jennifer was not rushing anymore. She was curious. She was giving Harrison room to explain. Marcus looked at his watch. Harrison's interview had already passed the 8-minute mark. Claire quietly placed the signed parking form into an envelope. I can mail this if you would rather go, she said. Marcus looked toward the elevator. I probably should. But he remained where he was. He did not want to turn Harrison into an enemy. The man inside that room had done nothing wrong. If Harrison earned the position, Marcus could respect that. What Marcus could not ignore was that Harrison was being allowed to earn it. Jennifer leaned back slightly. This position involves advising senior executives who may disagree with you. How comfortable are you challenging someone above you? Harrison smiled. Very. Jennifer smiled back. Give me an example. Marcus almost laughed, but there was nothing amusing in it. During 4 evenings at his kitchen table, he had practiced an answer to almost that exact question. He had planned to describe a compliance investigation 3 years earlier when a division president wanted to close a review before all employee reports had been examined. Marcus had challenged the decision without embarrassing the executive, documented the remaining risks, and persuaded leadership to complete the review. It had taken patience, evidence, and the willingness to remain calm, while someone with far more organizational power told him he was making the situation unnecessarily difficult. Marcus had thought that story demonstrated executive presence. Jennifer would never know. She had never asked. Harrison's interview reached 12 minutes. Then 15. The gray-haired man in the neighboring conference room picked up his tablet and opened something on the screen. From where Marcus stood, he could not see the details. Claire could. A notification appeared on her monitor seconds later. She read it, then looked toward the conference room with sudden attention. Marcus noticed. Everything all right? Claire hesitated. Yes. Her answer came too quickly. She began typing. Inside the interview room, Jennifer was asking Harrison about strategic judgment. Marcus finally walked back toward reception rather than the elevators. He stopped at a respectful distance from the glass, far enough that he was not interrupting the interview. He watched Jennifer listen carefully to Harrison's answer, nod, and make another note. When she eventually escorted Harrison out, nearly 20 minutes had passed. Thank you, Jennifer told him. I would like to move your application forward for further consideration. Harrison smiled. I appreciate that. As he passed Marcus, he gave him a polite nod. Marcus returned it. Jennifer then saw Marcus standing near reception. Her expression changed immediately. Mr. Reed, I thought you had left. I was about to. Is there a problem with your parking form? No. Jennifer glanced toward Claire, then back at Marcus. Then is there something else? Marcus kept his voice low. You asked him about leadership. Jennifer's shoulders stiffened. I cannot discuss another applicant with you. I am not asking you to discuss him. Marcus took one measured step closer, leaving several feet between them. You asked him about clients. You asked him about strategic judgment. You asked how he challenges senior executives. Jennifer's face hardened. Every interview is different. I understand. Marcus held her gaze. But you told me you could recognize that I lacked executive presence before asking me any of those things. Jennifer crossed her arms. I made a professional assessment based on our interaction. Marcus nodded toward the glass room. Harrison's resume was still open on the table. You gave him the chance to explain his experience. Jennifer said nothing. Marcus continued, quieter now. Why did you decide I did not deserve the same chance? The question hung between them. Claire stopped typing. Jennifer drew a breath, preparing to answer. Then the conference room door opened behind her. The gray-haired man stepped into the corridor carrying his tablet. Jennifer turned, and for the first time that morning, genuine surprise crossed her face. Mr. Whitmore. The man looked at Marcus, then at Jennifer. I think I would like to hear the answer to that too. Jennifer's arms slowly fell to her sides. David, I did not realize you were waiting in there. I was early for our 10:30 meeting, David Whitmore said. His voice was quiet, which somehow made Jennifer look more uneasy. He turned toward Marcus. David Whitmore, Chief Executive Officer. Marcus absorbed the introduction without changing his posture. The man who had been sitting behind the glass had not merely overheard the exchange. He had authority over nearly everyone on the floor. David looked back at Jennifer. Mr. Reed asked you a question. Jennifer glanced toward Claire, then toward the interview room where Harrison's resume remained open on the table. I explained that every candidate is evaluated individually. That was not his question, David said. Marcus recognized his own words from minutes earlier. Jennifer took a measured breath. My assessment was that Mr. Reed did not demonstrate the executive presence required for this position. David looked at Marcus. How long was your interview? About 6 minutes. David turned to Claire. Is that accurate? Claire checked the scheduling system. 6 minutes and 14 seconds from check-in to the status change. Jennifer's face tightened. Interview length alone does not determine quality. Agreed, David said. What leadership questions did you ask him? Jennifer hesitated. The conversation did not progress to that stage. What questions did you ask about his compliance background? Another pause. None specifically. His regulatory experience? Jennifer looked down. No. David tapped his tablet once. Then help me understand what evidence supported your conclusion. Jennifer's professional composure returned, but now it looked more like armor. Hiring at this level requires judgment. Resumes do not tell you everything. I have spent years evaluating candidates, and sometimes you recognize very quickly whether someone will function effectively in an executive environment. Marcus listened carefully. Jennifer was not insulting him directly. That was what made the moment harder to dismiss. She was wrapping a conclusion about him inside language that sounded objective until someone asked what it actually meant. David looked toward Marcus's leather portfolio. May I see your resume? Marcus opened the case and handed it to him. David scanned the first page. His expression changed almost immediately. 12 years in corporate compliance and legal operations. He continued reading. 4 business units. Regulatory response leadership. Internal investigations. He moved his eyes lower. And a transaction valued above $200 million. Jennifer remained silent. David held the resume toward her. Did you know any of this when you ended the interview? I had access to the recruiting summary. That is not what I asked. Marcus watched Jennifer's eyes move to the paper. For the first time, the same document that had sat unopened between them was now impossible for her to ignore. No, she said finally. David waited. Jennifer added, I had not read the full resume. Claire looked down at her desk. Marcus felt no satisfaction. Hearing the admission did not return the 6 minutes or erase the humiliation of standing outside while another applicant received the interview Marcus had prepared for. David seemed to understand that. He did not congratulate Marcus or turn the moment into a spectacle. Instead, he asked Jennifer another question. What was Mr. Reed's preliminary qualification score? Jennifer looked toward Claire. Claire answered carefully. 93 out of 100. David checked his tablet. And Mr. Harrison's? Claire hesitated before responding. 86. Jennifer immediately said, those scores are screening tools, not final decisions. Correct, David replied. Which is why we interview people. The sentence left Jennifer without an easy response. Marcus looked through the glass at Harrison's resume still open on the interview table. David followed his gaze. How long was the interview that just ended? Claire checked. 19 minutes. David nodded. And that candidate was asked about leadership, client relationships, strategic judgment, and executive communication? Jennifer's expression hardened. Yes. Marcus finally spoke. I am not asking you to reject him. Jennifer looked at him. He may be excellent. I hope he is. I am asking why I was evaluated on qualities I was never allowed to demonstrate. David's eyes remained on Jennifer. She opened her mouth, but nothing came immediately. Marcus could see the conflict behind her expression. She wanted to defend her professional judgment, yet every measurable fact on the table made that defense narrower. David handed the resume to her. Read the first page. Jennifer accepted it reluctantly. Her eyes moved across the document. Marcus watched her reach the section describing the regulatory investigation he had managed. She paused. Then she reached the corporate transaction. Another pause. This experience is relevant, she said quietly. Marcus did not answer. David did. It was relevant 6 minutes ago. Jennifer looked up. David's tone remained controlled. I am not making a conclusion about motive based on one interview, but I am not ignoring what I heard either. He turned to Claire. Preserve today's interview notes, screening scores, status changes, and evaluation records. Do not modify anything. Claire nodded. Jennifer looked sharply at him. You are opening a review? I am asking for evidence before I decide what happened. Marcus felt the weight of that sentence. It was the exact courtesy he had been denied. David turned toward him. Mr. Reed, you should not have to remain here while we sort this out. Marcus took back his resume and placed it inside his portfolio. I agree. He started toward the elevators, then stopped and looked at Jennifer. I did not come here expecting to be hired. Jennifer met his eyes. I came expecting to be considered. The elevator doors opened. Marcus stepped inside as David turned toward the conference room, and Jennifer remained in the corridor holding the recruiting notes. Just before the doors closed, Marcus heard David say, "Now we find out whether this happened once." The elevator carried Marcus toward the lobby while the 32nd floor disappeared above him, but his mind remained in the corridor. He had wanted one thing from the morning, the chance to compete. Now the chief executive officer was examining why that chance had disappeared before the first page of his resume had been read. Marcus looked down at his leather portfolio. Nothing inside it had changed. The qualifications Jennifer had finally seen were the same qualifications he had carried through the doors less than an hour earlier. What had changed was that someone with enough authority had asked her to support her judgment with evidence. Upstairs, David closed the conference room door after Jennifer and Claire entered. Harrison's application remained active. David made clear that the other candidate had done nothing wrong and would not be penalized because of what happened to Marcus. Then he placed his tablet on the table. Walk me through Mr. Reed's evaluation, he said. Jennifer sat across from him. I already explained that I did not believe he demonstrated the leadership presence required for the role. Show me where you documented that. Jennifer opened the recruiting system. Beside Marcus's name was a short rejection note. Not the right executive fit. David read it twice. What behavior does that refer to? Jennifer paused. His overall presentation. Be specific. His communication style. His demeanor. The way he carried himself. Claire remained silent. David turned the tablet toward Jennifer. The position has 5 scored categories: compliance expertise, strategic judgment, leadership, executive communication, and cross-functional management. Which ones did you evaluate in 6 minutes? Jennifer's fingers rested motionless beside her notebook. Executive communication. What score? I did not enter one yet. Then what did you use to reject him? Jennifer looked at David. Professional judgment. David nodded once. That may be part of hiring. It cannot replace the process. He asked Claire to pull the last 6 months of senior-level screening records handled by Jennifer. Claire hesitated only long enough to confirm the scope, then began working. Jennifer sat straighter. If you are trying to establish that I discriminate against candidates, I reject that characterization. David did not react. I have not characterized it yet. He pointed toward the screen. That is why we are looking. The first records appeared. David asked Claire to compare candidates with similar preliminary scores, then sort their interview lengths, follow-up questions, and rejection reasons. There was no immediate dramatic answer. Several short interviews had clear explanations. One candidate lacked a required license. Another had misrepresented management experience. A third withdrew after learning the position required travel. David left those cases aside. Then Claire opened another record. A black compliance manager with a preliminary score above 90 had received an 8-minute interview and been rejected for lacking polish. The notes contained no examples. Another black candidate with more than a decade of experience had received 9 minutes and been marked as questionable cultural fit. Again, little documentation explained the judgment. A white candidate with a comparable score had received 26 minutes, 6 substantive questions, and an opportunity to clarify a weak first answer. Jennifer leaned toward the screen. Those cases had different circumstances. Probably, David said. So we document the differences. Claire opened more records. The pattern was not perfect, and David refused to treat it as proof before a proper review. Some black applicants had received long interviews. Some white applicants had been rejected quickly, but enough inconsistencies appeared that the room grew quieter. Subjective phrases repeated where measurable examples should have been. Executive presence. Polish. Cultural fit. Leadership image. David looked at Jennifer. How are these terms defined? They are not formal scoring categories. Then why are they deciding outcomes? Jennifer looked back at the records. For the first time that morning, she did not answer immediately. Downstairs, Marcus reached the lobby and walked toward the revolving doors. His phone vibrated. This time it was Claire. Mr. Reed, Mr. Whitmore asked whether you could remain in the building for 10 more minutes. Marcus stopped near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago River. Why? Claire lowered her voice. He is reviewing the screening records and would like to speak with you before you leave. Marcus looked through the glass toward the street. Part of him wanted to walk out and never return. He did not need a corporation to tell him that 6 minutes had been unfair. But another part of him remembered Claire's words about his preliminary score and the way David had asked whether this happened once. 10 minutes, Marcus said. Thank you. He ended the call and sat near the windows with his briefcase beside him. Upstairs, Jennifer was staring at an application from 4 months earlier. The candidate had strong credentials, yet her note contained only 4 words. Not senior enough yet. What made you write that? David asked. Jennifer opened the resume. She read the first page. Then the second. I do not remember. David did not accuse her. That is the problem with a judgment nobody documents. Jennifer's expression tightened. I have hired black employees, David. Claire looked down. David remained calm. That does not answer what happened to Mr. Reed. The sentence seemed to stop Jennifer more effectively than anger would have. David continued. This review is not asking whether you believe you are fair. It is asking whether candidates received comparable opportunities to demonstrate their qualifications. Jennifer looked at Marcus's record again. 6 minutes and 14 seconds. 93 out of 100. No leadership question. No compliance question. No strategic judgment question. Her single rejection note sat beneath all of it. For the first time, she seemed less interested in defending the decision than understanding how she had made it. David stood. I am going downstairs to speak with him. Jennifer looked up. What are you going to offer him? Nothing he did not already earn. David picked up his tablet. A fair process. As he left the room, Jennifer remained seated before the screen. Marcus's resume was open beside her notebook now, and the first page seemed heavier than it had when it was closed. Marcus had been waiting near the lobby windows for 9 minutes when David stepped out of the elevator. The Chicago River moved beyond the glass, reflecting pale morning light between the buildings. David approached without an assistant and stopped beside the empty chair across from Marcus. Thank you for staying. Marcus checked his watch. You said 10 minutes. Then I have 1 minute left. Marcus studied him before giving a small nod toward the chair. David sat. He placed his tablet face down on the table rather than between them. We reviewed enough records to know that what happened upstairs requires a broader examination. Marcus kept one hand on his leather portfolio. Did you find discrimination? I found inconsistencies. I found subjective decisions that were poorly documented. I found candidates with similar qualifications who were not always given comparable opportunities to demonstrate them. I am not going to turn preliminary evidence into a conclusion before an independent review. Marcus appreciated the answer more than certainty David could not justify. What happens now? Outside Employment Counsel will review the senior-level screening process. Jennifer will not have final authority over those decisions while that review is underway. Marcus looked through the windows for a moment. And me? David leaned forward slightly. Your preliminary score was 93 out of 100. That existed before I heard your interview. Your background met the requirements before you entered this building. Marcus looked back at him. But I was rejected. Without receiving the evaluation our own process required. David paused. I would like to correct that. Marcus's expression remained guarded. By reversing her decision? No. David's answer came immediately. By giving you the interview you should have received. He explained that 3 senior employees from legal, compliance, and executive operations would form an independent panel. Jennifer would not participate. The panel would receive Marcus's resume and the standard job criteria, but they would not be told what had happened that morning until their evaluations were submitted. There would be no guaranteed advancement and no instruction to compensate for the first interview. Marcus listened without interrupting. When David finished, he asked the question that mattered most. Would I be getting that interview because I am qualified, or because you happened to hear what happened? David held his gaze. Because you are qualified. Me hearing what happened is the reason the company realized you were denied the interview you had already earned. Marcus sat back. The distinction mattered. He had no interest in becoming the candidate everyone handled carefully because the chief executive officer had intervened. Same questions, same core criteria, same scoring system? Yes. And the panel does not know about this until after the scores are locked. Correct. Marcus looked down at the worn edge of his briefcase. Then I will come back. David nodded. Tomorrow morning, if that works for you. 9 is fine. Upstairs, Jennifer remained in the conference room with Claire. The screen still displayed interview records from the previous 6 months. Jennifer had stopped arguing with every example. She was reading. One candidate had stumbled through an opening answer and received 3 follow-up questions before Jennifer formed a judgment. Another had been dismissed after one awkward response. She opened both resumes. Similar experience. Similar preliminary scores. Different opportunities. Claire, Jennifer said quietly, when you tried to tell me about Marcus before his interview, what were you going to say? Claire looked up from her laptop. That his compliance background matched the restructuring work almost exactly. Jennifer stared at Marcus's resume. Why did I stop you? Claire hesitated. You said you could tell pretty quickly whether someone had the right presence. Jennifer looked toward the glass wall. Have I said that before? Claire did not answer immediately. Yes. Jennifer turned toward her. Have you ever thought I was making decisions too quickly? Claire's discomfort was obvious. Sometimes. Why did you not tell me? Claire met her eyes. I work for you. The answer was simple enough to remove every defense Jennifer might have built around it. Her authority had not merely allowed her to judge candidates. It had made the people around her reluctant to question how she judged them. Jennifer looked again at Marcus's application photograph, then at the resume beside it. She minimized the photograph until only his qualifications remained on the screen. 12 years. Regulatory response. Cross-functional leadership. Major corporate negotiations. She remembered him sitting across from her that morning, calm and professionally dressed, answering the few questions she gave him. She tried to identify the precise moment she had decided he lacked executive presence. There had been no failed answer, no inappropriate comment, no missing credential she had discovered. The judgment had arrived before the evidence. Downstairs, David stood to leave. Marcus stood as well. One more thing, Marcus said. David waited. If the review finds that other people were treated the same way, fixing my interview does not fix theirs. I know. Then do not make this about one bad morning. David nodded. We will not. Marcus picked up his briefcase and headed toward the revolving doors. Upstairs, Jennifer remained seated before Marcus's resume, trying to answer a question that had become more uncomfortable the longer she considered it. She had spent years believing experience had sharpened her instincts. Now she was beginning to wonder whether experience had simply made some assumptions feel familiar enough to mistake for judgment. The next morning, Marcus returned to the 32nd floor at 8:52 with the same leather portfolio under his arm. Nothing about him had changed overnight. The same resume was inside. The same 12 years of experience followed his name. What had changed was the room waiting for him. 3 panelists sat around a conference table with printed evaluation criteria and his resume already open in front of them. Jennifer was nowhere inside. Mr. Reed, thank you for coming back, said Elaine Porter, the company's senior compliance officer. We are going to ask the same core questions we use to evaluate candidates for this position. We may challenge some of your answers because we want to understand how you make decisions. Marcus took his seat. That is what I came prepared for. The first question concerned a regulatory inquiry. Marcus described the case without revealing confidential information, explaining how he had balanced legal exposure, employee concerns, and pressure from senior leadership. Elaine interrupted him halfway through. Why did you refuse to close the review when the division president wanted it finished? Marcus met her eyes. Because the evidence was incomplete. Closing it would have made the calendar look better without making the company safer. One panelist made a note. Another asked what Marcus would have done if the executive had refused to cooperate. Marcus answered carefully, separating authority from accountability. The questions became harder. How would he handle a senior leader who believed compliance was slowing revenue? When should an internal investigation be escalated to the board? How would he rebuild trust after employees stopped using a reporting system? Marcus did not answer every question instantly. Twice he paused long enough to organize his thoughts. Nobody treated the pause as weakness. They waited. 46 minutes later, Elaine closed her folder. "Thank you. The panel will submit scores independently." Marcus stood and shook hands with each panelist. He did not know whether he had won anything. Strangely, that did not bother him. Walking into the corridor, he felt something he had not felt after the first interview. He had been seen. Jennifer was waiting near reception. She stood when Marcus approached, but she did not block his path. "Do you have a minute?" she asked. Marcus checked his watch. 1. Jennifer accepted the boundary. She held no folder this time. "I spent most of yesterday reviewing my interviews." Marcus said nothing. "I found decisions I can still defend," she continued. "I also found decisions where I gave some candidates more opportunity than others to explain themselves." Marcus watched her carefully. Jennifer's voice remained steady, but the practiced confidence was gone. "Claire told me something I did not want to hear. She said that when I already saw leadership potential in someone, I tended to help them get past a weak first answer. I asked follow-up questions. I gave them room." Marcus thought about Harrison sitting in the glass room while Jennifer asked question after question. "And when you did not see it?" Jennifer looked down briefly. "I sometimes decided too quickly." "That still does not answer why." "I know." She took a breath. "So I kept asking myself what I saw when you walked into that room." Marcus's expression remained unreadable. Jennifer continued. "You were qualified. You were prepared. You were professional. There was nothing in those 6 minutes that justified the certainty I had." Her eyes met his. "I had an image in my head of what senior executive leadership usually looks like, and you did not match that image as quickly as some other candidates did." Marcus waited. Jennifer could still retreat into vague language. She did not. "Your race affected the assumptions I made about you." The reception area seemed quieter. Claire remained at her desk several yards away, deliberately focused on her monitor. Jennifer swallowed. "I did not walk into that interview intending to discriminate against you. But intention does not change what I did. I gave another candidate the benefit of questions I did not give you." Marcus looked through the glass at the conference room where the panel had spent nearly an hour testing his qualifications. "Yesterday, you said you could recognize executive presence quickly. I was wrong." "About me?" Jennifer shook her head. "About believing my first impression deserved more authority than evidence." Marcus studied her face. He saw embarrassment there, but he also saw something more useful than embarrassment: specificity. She was no longer apologizing for how the situation looked. She was naming what she had done. "What happens now?" he asked. "I have been removed from final screening decisions while the independent review continues. Outside counsel is reviewing our process. Senior interviews will use documented scoring, and subjective rejection reasons will require specific examples connected to the job." Marcus nodded once. Jennifer continued. "I owe you an apology." "You do?" The answer surprised her. Marcus did not soften it. "And I am sorry," she said, "for rejecting you before I had earned the right to make that judgment." Marcus held her gaze. "I accept that you understand more today than you did yesterday." Jennifer seemed to recognize that he had not offered forgiveness as a shortcut. "That is fair." Marcus picked up his briefcase. "There is one thing you can do." "What?" "Do not prove you have changed to me." He looked toward the interview rooms. "Prove it to the next person when nobody important is listening." Jennifer's eyes followed his toward the glass. Marcus walked to the elevators without looking back. Behind him, Jennifer remained near reception as the doors closed, carrying no resume, no score sheet, and no professional language left to hide behind. For the first time, the hardest evaluation on that floor was not the one Marcus had just completed. It was the one Jennifer had finally begun on herself. Marcus did not hear from the company for the rest of that day. He went home, placed the leather portfolio on the same kitchen table where he had spent 4 nights preparing, and returned to the ordinary work of his life. He answered emails, reviewed notes for a consulting client, and resisted checking his phone every few minutes. He had done what he could. The independent panel had asked difficult questions, and he had answered them without asking anyone to lower the standard. Whether he received the position now belonged to a process that had finally measured him instead of guessing at him. At 9:17 the next morning, his phone rang. David Whitmore's name appeared on the screen. Marcus answered. "Good morning." "Good morning, Marcus. Do you have a few minutes?" "I do." David did not stretch the suspense. The panel submitted its scores independently yesterday afternoon. They were locked before anyone briefed them on what happened during your original interview. Marcus sat down. "All right. You ranked first." Marcus said nothing for a moment. The refrigerator hummed softly behind him. Outside his apartment window, traffic moved along the street as if nothing significant had happened. David continued, "Not because of the incident. Not because I heard the conversation. You ranked first on the evaluation criteria." Marcus lowered his eyes toward the portfolio. "By how much?" David gave him the scoring range. The margin was meaningful, but not overwhelming. Harrison had also performed well and remained a strong candidate. Marcus appreciated hearing that. There had never been any reason to make another applicant smaller in order to prove that Marcus deserved consideration. "We would like to offer you the position," David said. Marcus let the words settle. 2 days earlier, he had been told he lacked something that could supposedly be recognized within minutes. Now a panel that had actually tested his judgment, experience, and leadership had reached a different conclusion. "I want to review the responsibilities, reporting structure, and compensation before I accept," Marcus said. David laughed softly. "That sounds like the answer I expected. I did not spend 12 years learning to read agreements just to stop now." "Fair enough. I will have the written offer sent this morning." Before ending the call, David explained that the hiring review was continuing. Outside counsel had identified enough inconsistencies to recommend changes, but the company was not pretending every questionable decision had the same cause. Some had legitimate explanations. Others required deeper review. Candidates affected by documented process failures would be reconsidered where possible. Interview questions for senior positions would be standardized around job-related competencies, and rejection decisions would require evidence tied to those criteria. Marcus listened. "That matters more to me than what happens to one person," he said. "I know," David replied. 3 days later, Marcus returned to the office to discuss the written offer. When he stepped onto the 32nd floor, Claire smiled from reception. This time she did not look uncomfortable. "They are waiting for you in conference room 3. Marcus thanked her and started down the corridor. Jennifer was coming from the opposite direction carrying a stack of interview folders. She slowed when she saw him. Marcus stopped. "I heard the panel made its decision," she said. "They did. Congratulations." "Thank you." There was no celebration in Jennifer's voice and no bitterness in Marcus's. She glanced at the folders in her arms. Each had a standardized evaluation sheet attached to the front. "The new process started this morning," she said. "I saw." Jennifer looked at him. "I meant what I said the other day." Marcus remembered her apology. "Then keep meaning it tomorrow." She nodded. "I will." Marcus could have walked away there, but something in her expression made him remain for another second. "Jennifer, I do not need you to spend the rest of your career feeling guilty every time you interview a black candidate." She seemed surprised. "Then what do you expect?" "Attention." Marcus spoke quietly. "Guilt can still make the moment about you. Attention makes it about the person sitting across the table." Jennifer absorbed the distinction. "That is harder." "Probably. And more useful." "Probably that too." A small, restrained smile appeared on her face and disappeared. "I am sorry, Marcus." This time he did not need her to explain what she meant. "I know." He continued toward the conference room. Inside, David and the general counsel were waiting with the final offer. Marcus reviewed every page. He asked about reporting authority, resources, performance measures, and the independence of the compliance function. Nobody rushed him. Nobody told him what they could recognize about him within 6 minutes. After nearly an hour, Marcus placed the final page on the table. "There is one condition I want clarified." David leaned forward. "Which one?" "If I am responsible for protecting this company from risks people would rather ignore, then I need the authority to raise uncomfortable questions without being treated as the problem for asking them." David glanced at the general counsel, then back at Marcus. "Agreed." The language was added to the role description. Only then did Marcus sign. When he stepped back into the corridor, Jennifer was inside one of the glass interview rooms with a new applicant. Marcus could not hear the conversation, but he could see the resume lying open between them. Jennifer asked a question and waited while the applicant considered the answer. The pause lasted several seconds. She did not interrupt. She did not close the folder. She waited. Marcus watched only long enough to notice the difference, then walked toward the elevators. The position he had earned was now his, but the more important victory was smaller and quieter. A door that had been closed on assumption was beginning to stay open long enough for evidence to enter. 6 weeks later, Marcus was still carrying the same worn leather portfolio to work, though he no longer needed a visitor badge to reach the 32nd floor. His name now appeared in the internal directory beneath the compliance leadership team, and the work had already proved more complicated than any interview question could have captured. He had challenged a reporting shortcut that would have made quarterly numbers easier to explain. He had disagreed with a senior vice president about how quickly an internal review should be closed. He had also defended a junior manager whose mistake looked serious until the records showed that unclear instructions had contributed to it. Marcus did not win every argument. He did not expect to. What mattered was that people had to answer the evidence. The company had changed too, although not in the dramatic way public statements usually suggested. There had been no grand announcement celebrating a transformation. Outside counsel completed its review and found several hiring decisions that lacked sufficient job-related documentation. Some could be explained after managers provided additional records. Others could not. A small number of former applicants were contacted and offered renewed consideration for open positions. Senior-level interviews now use structured questions tied to defined competencies. Interviewers had to document why a candidate failed a category instead of hiding behind phrases such as executive fit or leadership image. Claire had been invited to join a recruiting process committee, giving her a formal channel to question decisions she once felt too junior to challenge. Jennifer remained Human Resources Director, but her authority over final senior-level screening decisions was temporarily shared with another executive while she completed additional training and participated in the review. Marcus had mixed feelings about that outcome when David told him. Part of him had expected a punishment large enough to match the humiliation of those 6 minutes. But another part understood that justice was not always measured by how completely someone else fell. Jennifer had been held accountable. Her decisions had been reviewed. Her authority had been limited. The process had changed. What remained uncertain was whether she had changed when no one was checking. One Thursday evening, Marcus stayed late reviewing an investigation summary. By the time he closed his laptop, most of the executive floor was empty. The daylight over Chicago had softened into amber, stretching long reflections across the glass corridor. Marcus placed his laptop inside his briefcase and walked toward the elevators. As he passed the interview rooms, movement behind one glass wall caught his attention. Jennifer was alone inside. There was no applicant yet. No David. No outside counsel. No committee. Just Jennifer preparing for an interview scheduled for the following morning. Marcus slowed without intending to. 2 documents rested on the table in front of her. One was a candidate profile with a photograph in the upper corner. The other was a resume. Jennifer picked up the profile first. Marcus could not see the candidate clearly from the corridor, only the shape of the photograph and lines of text beneath it. Jennifer looked at the page for several seconds. Then her hand stopped. She remained still, staring at the photograph. Marcus remembered their conversation near reception. "Do not prove it to me. Prove it to the next person when nobody important is listening." Jennifer slowly placed the profile face down. She pulled the resume toward her instead. Page 1. She began reading from the top. Marcus stood behind the glass for another moment. Jennifer underlined something. She turned to the standardized interview sheet and wrote a note beside one of the competency questions. Then she returned to the resume and continued reading. She had no idea Marcus was there. That was what mattered. Marcus resumed walking. The elevator arrived almost immediately. As the doors opened, he heard footsteps behind him. Jennifer had stepped out of the interview room, carrying the resume. "Marcus!" He turned. She stopped several feet away. "Still here, finishing a review." She lifted the resume slightly. "Me too." Neither mentioned what he had seen. Marcus entered the elevator. Jennifer remained in the corridor. Just before the doors closed, she said, "Good night." "Good night, Jennifer." The doors slid together. The following morning, Marcus arrived shortly after 8. Through the glass interview room, he saw Jennifer sitting across from a young black applicant in a gray suit. The resume was open between them. Jennifer pointed to something on the second page and asked a question. The applicant began answering, then stopped halfway through, visibly searching for the right words. Jennifer waited. She did not rescue the answer, and she did not end the interview. She gave the applicant time. A few seconds later, the young man started again. Jennifer listened. Marcus continued walking without learning whether the applicant would advance. Fairness did not mean everyone received the job. It meant everyone received the chance to show whether they could do it. At his office, Marcus placed his briefcase beside the desk and opened the investigation file waiting for him. Across the corridor, another interview continued behind glass. No chief executive officer stood outside listening. No one was watching for a mistake. The resume remained open.